I am Alton Reich, and at Vital Metrix, we are changing the future of at-home care for patients with congestive heart failure. Your cardiologist knows that more than 5 million Americans are living with congestive heart failure, and more than 500,000 new cases are diagnosed each year. Half of these patients will die within 5 years of diagnosis. But your cardiologist knows how to treat congestive heart failure. Medications are used to regulate fluid levels in the body, which treats both the symptoms and the disease. But getting the dosage right is tricky, and the right dosage depends on both the progression of the disease and you sticking to your diet. Your cardiologist knows that you cheat. Recent studies with an implantable monitor have shown a 40% reduction in hospitalization rate. This monitor takes a handful of seconds of data each day, transmits it to cardiologists who can then look for long-term trends. Generally speaking, what they'll see is that patients are relatively stable for periods of months, weeks or months, but then changes in hemodynamics, blood flow pumped by the heart, will occur over the course of days, which indicate that the disease is progressing or that you haven't been sticking to your diet. And so they're able to bring those patients in, adjust their medications, and send them home, rather than waiting until the disease is noticeable and they end up in the emergency room and getting admitted to the hospital. So more frequent monitoring leads to more frequent medication adjustments, leads to reduced hospitalization rates. But the problem with this device is that it's implantable. It requires an invasive procedure to get it into the patient. And that means it's also relatively expensive. The hardware is about $20,000. The procedure to implant it is another $10,000. And while cardiologists can get reimbursed for looking at the data and using it to adjust treatment, hospitals aren't necessarily getting reimbursed for putting these devices in. At Vital Metrix, our solution is to use non-invasive, convenient at-home measurements that people can do themselves and contribute to improving their care. So our technology uses an off-the-shelf, Bluetooth-enabled pulse oximeter, a blood pressure cuff, a wireless-equipped tablet to collect data in-home and transmit it to our server in the cloud. And on the server in the cloud, we use patented software to analyze that information and turn it into actionable hemodynamic data that can be provided to cardiologists. So let's take a peek behind the curtain. What we use in our software is a physics-based mathematical model of the human cardiovascular system and a physics-based model of how the pulse oximeter actually functions. We use data from the pulse oximeter to tune the model so that our model matches the condition of the patient. And from that, we can extract various information, provide it to the doctor, and also provide it to the patient for them to be able to contribute to tracking their state of their health and improving their own care. So why is this important? It's important because your cardiologist wants to keep you out of the hospital. You want to slow the progression of the disease. As a whole, the healthcare system needs to reduce costs, and caring for CHF patients is relatively expensive. And hospitals are now under pressure to prevent readmissions and keep people who are admitted for CHF from returning in short order. So in order to get this to market, we have to go through the FDA clearance process, the 510(k) clearance process. It's going to be about an 18 to 24-month process that requires several well-defined steps. We have to identify a predicate device, which we're in the process of doing right now. That's a device that already exists, that's already been cleared by the FDA, that we can use for comparison. Then we have to perform our clinical testing, and as I'll mention in a few minutes, we're lining up our clinical sites now. We have to prepare and submit an application to the FDA with our results and receive clearance to market. What is that market? The total addressable market for home monitoring is estimated to be about $6 billion annually, with potential market of an additional $5 billion for in-hospital and physician office applications. In order to address this market, we're going to have to be able to scale the technology. We have two key advantages that will enable us to do that. So one is we use off-the-shelf sensors for the at-home measurements, and we have tested with sensors from several manufacturers and found that we can work with any of them. So we can work with multiple manufacturers if we need to scale rapidly in terms of providing hardware to patients. Plus, we're doing our heavy lifting mathematics in the cloud using cloud computing like Amazon's EC2 high-performance computing platform. So again, that allows us to rapidly scale up our ability to address patients and work with their data without having to bring in hardware of our own and the associated expense. So our team has the experience to bring this technology to market and successfully scale it. I've been working with it since 2009. Stacy Woodruff, our CFO, has held positions of increasing responsibility in the major hospital systems, Ascension, CHS, Community Health Systems, and HCA. Ginny Rowland, our Chief Marketing Officer, has started and sold several healthcare-related companies, spent 10 years working in Philips Healthcare in the areas of respiratory and cardiac care, essentially acquiring new technologies, and she has fantastic connections in the industry. Jason Hyam, our software engineer, has high-performance computing experience. He developed essentially a version of Google Maps for the U.S. Army called Army Globe Engine. And Dr. Semi Bayou, who's our algorithms guy, has a PhD in aerospace and mechanical engineering and more than 20 years of experience developing mathematical modeling techniques. We have competition. CardioMEMS is the implantable device that I mentioned earlier. They're breaking into the market now, but their primary problem is that they're expensive. The Cheetah NICOM system is non-invasive, but it's really targeted at hospital use, and again, it's a relatively expensive product. MochaCare is a non-invasive product, but it's not FDA approved, and it's also non-specific. It basically looks at the degree of congestion in congestive heart failure as sort of a red, green, blue measurement, but it doesn't give actionable quantitative information to cardiologists. We expect to break even in about late 2017 after entering the market. And so how did we get here? Where are we? We started this journey with work that we did for the U.S. Air Force at Arnold Air Force Base back in 2009, doing condition monitoring of wind tunnel components. That provided the initial funding for the core algorithm that's in Vital Metrix. We did the actual Vital Metrix development with funding from the National Science Foundation that included testing at the Heart Center in Huntsville, Alabama. We have 2 patents currently issued, and we have 6 additional patents, both US and international, in various stages of pending. We were part of the accelerator cohort this year at Jumpstart Foundry in Nashville, and they provided some additional investment to develop the technology. Where we're headed is that we are currently lining up clinical trial partners, including Erlanger Hospital in Chattanooga, Centennial in Nashville, and Vanderbilt Children's also in Nashville. This is all in preparation for submitting our package to the FDA and receiving clearance to market. I am Alton Reich. We are Vital Metrix. Thank you very much.